Be the right club. Be the right club today. Yes!
Johnny, that's better than most.
How about in?
That is better than most. Better than most!
Expect anything different?
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's not a funeral. It's not a funeral.
Welcome back to the No Leg Up podcast live show, presented as always by our friends at High Noon. I'm thankful to have some High Noon for tonight. I am Solly, joined by my guy, Big Randy. Hello, Mr. Big.
Hey, guys. We're going to get to the KPMG. It was a little boring, but man, flipping it to the PGA Tour after the KPMG ended was that was a lot. I assume we're going to get into it. But Solly, hello, good to be with you.
I don't have to introduce my next guest. Biggest news of the day. I mean, just everybody on the social media apps have been talking about it. TC hit both his one and dones this week. He hit Minjee Lee and Keegan Bradley, and I just want to
big takeaway.
I want to congratulate you, TC, on a masterful week.
Thank you. I feel like somebody ripped my heart out and then stuffed it in my mouth. And yeah, that's I don't know. I've been to a bunch of World Series games that the Braves lost. I lived through the 28-3 Falcons loss. Some other Tommy losses, but no, I think that's about as tough as it'll ever get. So I don't know, just gutted for him and Finno, and like, yeah, it's a PGA Tour event. It's not a funeral. I still think he's going to win at Portrush, and we go onward.
We'll get there. You can make the day a good day. High Noon's got a big task ahead of us tonight if they're going to make this a good day for me. But make the day a good day with the all-new High Noon Day Pack. This new variety 8-pack will be available year-round to keep the sun shining and good times rolling. This is probably
shining. Good times are rolling.
This is my favorite set of flavors in one single pack. There's usually one. Every pack has got one flavor that I'm kind of like, that's not my favorite. This one you cannot miss. Pear, cranberry, tangerine, and peach. The perfect combo of light, bright, delicious flavors for a blue sky day. Visit highnoonspirits.com to find a pack near you. High Noon, sun's up. I got peach tonight. Two massive events to get to this week, an LPGA major and the final signature event of the season, which is kind of wild on the PGA Tour. Lots at stake for the best male and female players in the world. And when it matters most players choose FootJoy shoes. In fact, more than a third of the players at the Travelers and the KPMG wore FootJoy shoes. This is nothing new. Since 1945, FootJoy has been the shoe of choice on tour. That's 80 consecutive years. Stat that still blows my mind every time they tell us that, because it just doesn't seem right. But it speaks to the unrivaled passion and dedication FootJoy has to make the best shoes, gloves, and apparel for all players, whenever, wherever, and however you play. Premier Series was the shoes of choice at both events, but there were also players who chose Traditions, Hyperflex, Quantum, and Pro SL. FootJoy has shoes for every player, whether you choose on style, performance, traction, stability, or comfort. Find the best shoe for your game at footjoy.com. Tommy Fleetwood entered the final round of the Travelers Championship with a 3-shot lead over Russell Henley and Keegan Bradley after a 63 on Saturday. Opened with a nervy bogey, but then birdied the second. We're fine. But bogeyed 3 and 4. Looked out of sorts, but made birdie on the 11th hole. Keegan bogeyed the 10th. It was back up to a 2-shot lead. Everybody birdied the 13th hole. And then a bogey on 16 trimmed Tommy's lead back down to 1 over Keegan. They made it to the last. They both parred the 17th hole after Tommy drove it in the fairway bunker. Both hit it in the fairway on 18. Tommy has 147, has 9-iron, doesn't like it, backs off, switches to wedge, comes up short, plays very quickly after Russell Henley had chipped in. It comes up short after Keegan Bradley had stepped up and stuffed it to 5 feet 8 inches. Tommy's putt just sits directly outside Keegan's mark, misses the putt low. Keegan steps up, makes the putt, and wins the tournament. And TC, I don't know where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think drove it in the rough on 1. I think that was that was a little jarring after he hit 14 fairways yesterday. I think, magical round 3. Played his butt off. I think he drove it well, but I think his speed on the putting was awesome all day. It had me thinking, all right, this is different, right? And then gets out, bogey on 1, whatever, birdies 2, like wedge in his hand in the fairway. 2's a cool hole. All right, we're good there. And then we get to 3 and 4 back-to-back bogeys. I think 3 was, just not a great wedge in there, or 9-iron or whatever. And then, 3 putt misses the 4 or 5 footer, and then 4, similar thing.
For your own sake, I can't have you do all 18 holes because I'm worried about you right now.
No, I know,
But
then after that, Solly, I think where it really turned around was 5. He hits a really bad shot, like long 240-yard par 3, hits a really long one, and then ends up getting up and down, like really good up and down there. And you're like, all right, like this is good. And then kind of steadies himself and has a couple good birdies. Birdie looks 8 and 9, but steadies it. And then, 10 down the hill, 11, birdies 11. You're like, all right, we're cooking. And then 12, that was the one, the putts hanging on the lip. But I thought at that point, Henley I thought was going to be the one to really worry about today. I thought after Henley, he birdied 1, bogeyed 2, but then I thought Henley was going to come for throats early and often. You knew Keegan was going to be there towards the end. I thought if anything, you were going to have to get to 17 or 18 for, 17 for a playoff, 18 to win it. And yeah, just, I don't know, man. Birdie on 13, and then coming down the stretch, bails out on 15. Sally, you can talk about that with, shaving down the rough on 15. No balls in the water this week. 16, puts it long over the bunk, over the water, chips coming back and gives it too much, misses the putt. And then 17, I thought was a really good shot. He was in the fairway bunker there, and like that's a pretty nervy fucking spot. Water short, pretty fluffy bunker there.
That's when I thought he had it won. He hit that shot into 17, was like, dude, this is hard to lose it from here. But blowing that putt as far by as he did was, he made the comebacker, but that was like, dude, you're just not yourself right now. Like the bogey on 16,
all day.
Oh.
It was like he was, he just didn't have his hands all day. And, which was extra disappointing after yesterday. And then, and then 18, I don't know. I guess you got to go with first instinct, right? Which was 9, and get it there and take a little bit off of it instead of trying to shove the wedge in there. I feel like the drive is the tough part. That a couple tour winners of the last couple of years text me and they're like, dude, the drive is the tough part there. Like, shove one in behind the pin and hope for a little bit of spin or whatever there. And then, and then a pretty feeble effort up there and shows Keegan the line, and that's that. So, I'm gutted for Tommy. I'm gutted for Finno. I don't know. It's like, but at the same time, I don't know, like you want to feel something, right? And it's why you believe in something. It's why you watch. It's why we play, like roll the balls out there. And, I know I've been very vocal about Tommy. I'm not bailing on that. I still believe in him. It may take longer. I think this is hopefully in the long run, this is a good thing for him. It leads to greater victories down the line. But yeah, it sucks right now. And, people can have all their fun and tee off all they want, but I don't know, pretty human story. And I think, he looked like he saw a ghost afterward and still did a little interview and everything. And I don't know. It's just, and then obviously there's the other layer of Keegan and all of that. I don't like Keegan. I can't stand him, but I respect Keegan. And, and I think, I don't know, like he was my pick for this tournament in our winners draft at the beginning of the year.
You get tripled up this week.
It was
some consolation here.
It was like meant to be, right? Like it's, but all, bottom line is Tommy was the only guy in like the top 20 or 25 over par today.
Yeah.
And I think, you can take some solace in the fact that he was even par on the back or even par in his last 14 or 15 holes. But at the end of the day, like, he's 2 over in his last 3. That's what counts. So sucks.
Speaking of teeing off, is there any teeing off you want to do here, Randy? Any crowing you want to do about Tommy Ladd?
No. It's not crowing. I feel for TC. I feel for Tommy. I feel for Finau. But I think we got to call a spade a spade. I mean, that was a slow motion choke job. Just not totally a killer. I think, man, that was as somebody who's pretty agnostic and has, I think, gotten a little bit radicalized, just noticing how much we pick Tommy to win and he doesn't win. And that's the source of it for me.
Fucking close.
I know. So
Neil's picked him. Like other people have picked him as well.
For sure. So from that viewpoint, I want to be very clear about that. From a totally agnostic viewpoint, holy shit, that was a fun ending to the tournament. I think that was, I mean, a hell of a lot more drama than what was going on at Frisco. 42, I think now top 10s without a win extends his lead over Brett Quigley. I bet Brett Quigley's a little pissed. He was excited to have that record back. I just, what else can you say, man? The guy just didn't do it in the most, like, not spectacular fashion, but it was pretty damn close to spectacular.
I mean, I got people like checking on like my mom was like, "Hey Todd, like I hope you're all right." Like,
Todd.
I got people, telling me that they're here for me right now, like earnestly. Like everything's fine, all right? It's a golf tournament, and
tough.
I guess the upside is like this was the reverse backdoor top 10. This was the front door top 10, top 5, top 2. But yeah, I don't know. I just
it's
hard. It's just sports, man. It sucks.
It is. Tommy's like the easiest guy. I would probably say Tommy, Max, maybe ZB, probably like of all the people we've met, like the easiest person to root for, just like the most real human and like somebody we've greatly enjoyed following and rooting for. And like, really, I just really freaking wanted this for him. That says a lot. Like knowing what we would have to put up with TC tonight, if he would have won, should speak volumes about what I think of Tommy and how I, root for him. And this is such a hard one to recover from, in that it lined up really, really, really well for him. He just had to walk through the door and he stubbed his toe in the door. And like, dude, just that look on his face after he 3-putted 18, I truly felt for him. And it just felt like we don't see guys consistently bottle opportunities in pro golf really anymore, like other than unfortunately Tommy. And like that like pains me to say, like it just did not look like normal behavior from him down the stretch. Just a really uncharacteristic
Even
shot on 16. Start. Yeah. But he straightened it out, man. I thought he had it. And it was I just wanted to see him hit the middle of the green on 16. And I think he would have been fine, but went way long there. And it's a tough shot. It's an asking shot downwind, like with the pin on the left. Yeah. There's not like an easy bailout spot there. And he didn't pass that test. His chip was not good. That bogey was tough. And then if you are a professional golfer playing that well this week, you do not make bogey on the 18th hole at Travelers from 147 yards. Like you just don't ever do that. But it's
solid to that. I think to that point, like, I think that's where you can really throw it back in my face. And like, he's a flusher, he's a proper player. And like, it came down to like, a ball off of a tee from 100 and what 16's what 100 and 155 yards. That's a 9-iron. Like it came down to a 9-iron. Wind's not doing that much. I mean, it's downwind, but it's not like it was earlier. You can't really go for that flag, but man, you gotta hold that green. And then, to have that shot into 18 and that result, I think is like almost unfathomable, I think. So yeah, I don't know. There's just not a whole lot I can say to like, I was really like, man, I thought he conquered it after like 11, 12, 13. Like that was really good golf that he was playing on the back 9 there. And he was starting to run downhill, get momentum. And then, it just went from there. But yeah, like I'm gutted. I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it pisses me off when people say like, this is a bit. Like It's not a bit whatsoever. Like Solly, we were there when Tommy won
It's
in
not
Abu
a bit.
Dhabi
I can assure people it's not a bit.
in what 2017 or 2018, and like honestly, like that's I don't know. There was something there, and then partying with him afterwards, and Finno, and like they become like good friends. And I don't know. I think that like I texted it to Trevor yesterday. He said on the broadcast, I'm like, hey, like Tommy's the kind of guy that like you hope that like your son grows up to be. Like he's just like he's a fucking class act, and he's like a wonderful, wonderful human being, and he treats people with respect, and he treats people like really well, and carries himself with class, and he's so freaking close, man. And I think I know it's in there, and it's going to come out, and it may not be on our timeline, but I think the guy's 34 years old, and I think he's got 4 or 5 great years of golf left, and then probably some stuff after that. And I don't know, I think there's some major venues that line up really well for him moving forward, but he's got to get it over the line in a regular PGA Tour event first, or it's going to be
I don't think he has to do it first.
the coolest thing in the world if he gets it done at a major too.
I don't think he has to. And
I'm Port Rush is a great fit. Birkdale's a great fit. Like I don't know. It is in there, and it's not like I think. But part of the charm for me is it's not easy. It was never going to be easy. He makes it harder than it needs to be on himself. It's almost like watching Neil. It's the same fucking reason that people like watching Neil, right? It's like, man, like it's just, it's part of the joy is the journey and the chase. And like, he didn't get it done today, but like, I don't know. I know that when he does get it done, like today is going to be something we look back on, and that's going to make it sweeter. So I know that's corny as hell, but
no,
man, that's why you watch sports, right?
It's a very nice eulogy. It really is. It truly is. Solly, I think you said something that I want to pick up on about, Tommy, we just don't see guys kind of bottle tournaments that much anymore, right? Like it just seems like everything's optimized, everything's so just cut and dry, maximized. And I really enjoy, and this is a perverse joy, I will admit it, but I really enjoy a person like Tommy out there right now who reminds us that this is a very human game. And sometimes, whatever's going on in your head, in your mind, in your hands, in your body, when you get in spots like this, it's really difficult, and it doesn't always turn out great. And I truly, I enjoy the role he's playing, because I think it's a very necessary role in professional golf. I think having that side of the spectrum, along with, the Scotty Schefflers and the people who make it look easy and win all the time, that's, man, having that whole tapestry is what it's all about.
Yeah. And Keegan's part of that too, right? I think that
is.
Keegan's like this. I don't know. It's become a punchline or a bit this year, but like I think it started as something real. Like I legitimately thought like Keegan, for whatever reason, he has a fucking dog in him, And he made a bazillion feet of putts or chips today, and like this just felt inevitable from the start of the season. Of even if he doesn't make the Ryder Cup team, it was going to turn into a big ass discussion, right? And I think that's almost the opposite of. Like I think with Tommy, I think the most frustrating part is like we've seen him do it in the Ryder Cup. We've seen him do it in like high pressure moments and all of that. And but that's with a teammate, or that's with playing for a team, and it's like, man, why can't we get out of our own way just counting them all up, instead of match play? So that's where I'm most confused, because like the guy's got all the shots. Like to me, like part of the reason I love him is because like beyond all the personal stuff and how he carries himself, it's because like I like the way he plays golf. I like the way that like he's not overly reliant upon driver. He's not overly reliant upon a distance. He's an iron player, and he's in the putt, and like he's had to make the putting better. He's had to clean up the edges, but like in there is just like a good golfer who knows where the bottom of his swing is. And that's what makes me most disappointed when something like this happens, when he chokes down the stretch, is because the reason that I like him is because he knows where the bottom of his swing is. And like, that should be what he relies upon on 16 or on 18. It's like, that's what makes me so fucking confused, man.
It doesn't make sense. And I think that's part of the beauty of it. You said it's sports, right? Like eventually, I have no doubt, eventually Tommy's going to win one of these. I truly believe that. Just like the Chicago Cubs eventually won a World Series, just like Rory eventually won another major, like all good things come to an end. But Finau won, of course. We're
times.
still, I don't know if Ricky's ever going to win one though. But until we get there, we get days like this where, again, you're just reminded that it's human, it's sport. You never quite know what's going to happen. It's a rich mix of characters. I loved it. I'm very sorry for Tommy. I'm very sorry for UTC, but God damn, that was a good golf tournament.
And Randy, I think you can I think both things can be true, right? Like you can be sorry, but that was good theater. That was that's part of the reason I love this tournament, right?
Yeah.
It's Solly, we've talked about it before of some of the most proper venues give us shitty endings, and because the tournament's over for the Pac 9 on Sunday, and then sometimes it's just about setting up the final 9, and then you get some drama and you get a good stage for some theater, and there's water and it's short, but you got to hit the shots and
good arenas. That's a big atmosphere. Like Travelers, it delivers, man. It's like not a perfect golf course. It's not an amazing golf course. It's short. It's different, but man, it delivers the goods. It really does, and just seems to thread the needle really well of what makes for a really good professional golf tournament. Enthusiastic crowd, always jazzed up. Always make a great environment around those last 4 holes. It's just always a fun watch.
The people in New England, they show out, man. They come from hours away. And so props to them, props to the tour for making this a signature event, I think. And just, you look at the variety of winners over the years, from some of the shortest players on tour to some of the longest players on tour and everything in between. And it's just a really interesting menagerie of players. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Today was why we watched golf, right? It was great. So hat off to Keegan, hat off to Russell Henley.
Yeah, we'll get to Keegan here shortly, but just as we put a wrap on Tommy here, ServPro is the #1 brand in cleanup and restoration. It is known for making any mess like it never even happened. Thanks to ServPro with over 2,200 locations nationwide, they're faster to any size disaster. This is a big one. This is a big disaster, TC. What do we have to clean up?
Yeah, this might be a super fun site.
What's the one? Yeah, I know we've kind of talked through his round, but man, if you could go back and be replay that shot.
Honestly, weirdly, I think it's even before 16 and 18. I think it's the drive on 15. Because I think if he birdies 15 and just he's played that hole brilliantly all week. I think if he threads one in there on the fringe or just short right, or even short left and chips it onto that back left pin, he's playing with a 3-shot lead at that point instead of a 2-shot lead. And then I think it's a lot less white knuckle down the stretch. Yeah. And I
got to hit the shot at some point.
Exactly.
Well,
so just take it on. And Solid, to your point, they've shaved down, or they won't shave down the rough there, and so take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, it's not a risk reward hole. It's 278 guys played the hole this week. 10 total balls went in the water. There's that strip of, I think roughly 30 balls stopped in that strip of rough. So even if you pull it a little bit, that rough is going to stop it. You almost have to hit one destined for the water for it to go there. So. And if you pull into that rough, you can still easily make par, and par is likely from bailing way right anyway. So you're not gaining much of anything by bailing way right on that shot. So that was definitely a mulligan I'd like to see him take. And you can visit surfpro.com or call 1-800-SERVPRO today. If you want to make a disaster like it never even happened.
I do want to say too, I don't want anybody to say oh, he's explaining this away or whatever. I'm not. There's no explaining anything away. He fucking choked. That is what it is. You can love the guy and call a spade, right? But
yeah, I don't think
I'm just saying I think he's going to be better for it in the long run, and I think he's I don't know.
Hey,
I think
you've been on the stand long enough. Flip it back on me.
Right.
And with obviously, I'm going to have some things that I'm going to need to address tonight. You've been on for long enough here. The prosecution rests. Now it's the defense's turn here. Throw whatever the fuck you want at me. That was triple the. I may not have been in as much pain as you, TC, but at least you have this bit on the other end to look forward to make it more fun. This was a nightmarish evening for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Solly, the whole Ryder Cup bit. It's not a bit. I just thought, all right, I think Keegan's nobody else is really rising to the occasion to his level, and it goes back to DJ's astronauts or drillers point from Armageddon of like, hey, it's tough to teach astronauts to be drillers, but we could teach some drillers to be astronauts. And like, I feel like you could probably roll somebody in there to be the captain and he could still make some of the decisions, and they could guarantee him some sort of captaincy in the future, which that would be a no-brainer. Like, hey, you're going to do Ireland, let Tiger do this one, or, and Tiger hasn't had to do any of the media. That was the whole reason he didn't want to do it in the first place. But I like, Solly, I'll ask you this. Can you say with a straight face that this team is better in September with Keegan being the captain versus Keegan playing, assuming he continues his current level of play or something thereabouts?
At this point, if you value the captaincy at all, which I know you do, like you've talked a lot about Luke Donald and Dodo Molinari and what the Europeans have done for decades of how they've led that team, how they've organized things. If you care about and value the
there's
captaincy,
a lineage there.
There is.
It's not just a singular individual.
Lineage needs to start on the U.S. side. There needs to be a plan. What has the U.S. done many, many, many times is when things change, they just change the plan. Like inserting Tiger as the captain 3 months out before the event, and now making Keegan like that would be changing the plan. Like the plan was a surprise one. I was surprised when they took Keegan. I was like, okay, but surely they wouldn't be dumb enough to walk themselves into this trap of should he play? Should he pick himself? Should he be
they already
captain?
Have. That's
what I'm saying.
Right? Yeah.
I 100% agree. Like this was an avoidable thing. And frankly, this is not what anybody's going to want to hear tonight about Keegan. Is like, honestly, this is like poor leadership from Keegan's standpoint. I think this should have been, hey, if I'm taking the job, I'm not going to play. Like we don't need to talk about any of this. We don't need this to be a distraction. If Keegan was not the captain, I would be very stoked right now about him being a part of the 2025 team. He's been really, really good. It's been sustained. It's a very different environment from the last time we did the Keegan debate. And this is consistent with everything I've said over the last several months. I don't regret leaving it at home for Rome, but we don't need to rehash all of that. I can't in good conscience live in a world where I think the captain's job is like very, very, very important, and also suggest that Keegan like could or should at somewhat of a last minute toss aside his captaincy for a playing role. He would have to be playing at a, honestly for me, like close to a Scotty level to justify that. Like the difference between Keegan and like the 13th man is not enough to justify such a drastic change from what you said you wouldn't do from the jump, which is pick yourself. Like that's all
right. But I think the counterpoint, Solly, is what about like Keegan didn't choose to be the captain. They just like out of nowhere foisted this upon him and thought it would be a cool PR stunt. So that's A. I also think Keegan's the kind of guy that probably will be a good captain and will be in the future. But what's to say, like, all right, Steve Stricker, you come on in here, you've captained a winning Ryder Cup team. Seemingly you were pretty glowing about him after Whistling Straits, at home, all of that. Let's say they let Steve Stricker or Brandt Snedeker is currently in the process with the President's Cup for 2026. If Brandt Snedeker, let's say he were the captain, it's June 22nd. We have 3 months till the Ryder Cup. I think, a lot of it's like choosing what the uniforms look like, choosing like what the catering menus.
That's not
look
a lot of. That's not the important part for this, if you win or lose.
Yeah, but I think the U.S. is whiffed on the important part anyway, and I think the most important part is like having the right 12 guys on the team. Like that's the fucking.
I
deal.
very much agree with that.
Then,
I just cannot get to a point where I think the U.S. captain actually matters that much.
I just don't think it matters as much as having like I would say he's like a top 8 guy, not a top 12 guy right now. Like he's playing legitimately great golf. He's like his game seemingly suits Bethpage really well. He plays well in the Northeast. He plays well on these cold season grasses. It's like, I don't know. To me, it's like, man, like why don't we just do the obvious thing here?
Well, okay, let's flip this the other way. You had a field day on the way Zach Johnson captained the team at Rome.
Because he's a fucking clown.
Right. So there's value in the role of the captain being important in this. Like there's value in that role.
Well, there's a captain that's taking stuff off the table.
Yes.
And there's the captain that's bringing stuff to the table. Like when Zach Johnson is bringing in Kelly James on Saturday night to like, and the guys are rolling their eyes and like wanting to go to bed, like that's taking stuff off the table. Or when guys don't know who they're going to play with, or like I don't know. I just think we're talking about two different things here. And I think the baseline needs to be like, hey, let's get the right 8 to 12 guys on the team here and then go from there.
And that's where I keep going back to the decision. He shouldn't have never been captain, right? And if you were going to take the job, you shouldn't have let it get to this spot. You shouldn't have let it even be
we'll get to the PGA of America after like later on in the show.
Like, hello, Sully, got a question for you here.
Sure.
All he ever talks about is his love of the Ryder Cup, much like yourself, and him wanting to be a part of this team. Mm-hmm. When they asked him, more than likely, he thought, I am never going to be a playing member of this team. Of course, he's going to accept that. And he's going to say whatever he needs to say to make people confident in his ability as a captain. But he has a lot more pressure on him and the United States team losing on home soil than winning, right? And I think that's where it goes back to ZJ and everything. Like, he is not a wartime captain. That guy doesn't take you overseas.
It's true. If you're expected to win, if he plays or not, right? Why if you're Keegan, why would you want to be the player?
Are you expected to win?
You win it. Like, the home teams win this thing by a huge margin. They're favorites. They're likely to win as it stands right now.
What's the odds right now?
Either way, like we know the home teams have a massive advantage. That one home team or one road team has won this event since 2006, and it took the miracle at Medina for that to happen. So
they're minus 135 right now.
Yeah, so
it's very slight.
Like, there's not been a playing captain since, like, all right, Keegan Bradley also.
I'm not saying playing captain. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, he's
changing
not
the captain
anymore.
This late. I think that's an unnecessary complication to improve your team by, as the numbers would say, about a quarter of a shot per round by him over the 13th guy. Like, that seems like an unnecessary move. That's where I'm like, if he was playing like Scotty, I get getting to that point of being like, how the hell do you leave this guy at home?
But he's played in 2 of these before. You got guys on the bench that, like, I think there's a lot of intangibles there as well. Of he's, I don't know. I just think there's a lot more there than just the straight strokes gain stuff. And also, like, I don't think that they're doing a bunch of fucking rocket science in the U.S. team room with Scouts Inc. or whomever that, like, you're going to have to start from scratch. Like, he's a like, like, the numbers are the numbers as far as, so they would say, cool, let's have the best.
But that, like, even if you're not starting from scratch, doesn't that
feel like an
unnecessary move?
Because they made the wrong call in the first place.
But that doesn't mean you chase it with another wrong call. Is where
I don't think it's but I don't think it's the wrong call. You're like so Solly. The
only people who actually get points are the people that are playing.
The statistics would say this is akin to you saying, like, the smart play is the conservative play. Like, you bitch about that all the time. You're like, the smart play isn't always the conservative play. Sometimes it's just to send it. And, like, I don't know. I just feel like I think it's a lot harder to find. I don't think there's anything that we know of, at least, that makes Keegan this exceptional mind, like, galaxy brain captain moving forward. But I do know that, like, versus the alternative, he's going to pick the U.S. team up shots, not even counting his experience.
Where I've said this before, where I thought Keegan's best value would be in transforming or evolving the team room from, like, it's like almost like having a player represent them versus having, like, a Jim Furyk level captain. Like, it's just a different thing. Like, this is a player leading this team. I've long thought that the U.S. team needs, like, players that be leaders, like Rahm is, like Rory is, like, that check their ego at the door and are just, like, willing to run through a wall. And I thought Keegan could accomplish that as captain. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, I like kind of where they're going with this, like, versus doing a Stricker thing or doing a Davis Love thing again or whatever. I kind of like where this is headed. So I
feels like Snedeker could be that guy.
Commit to that. And again, I go back to, like, when asked about it from the jump, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to pick myself. Now we've entered a spot where, like, he's in the biggest conflict of interest you could possibly have for it. And
totally.
And what's the timeline for when the deadline would be to find a new captain? Is it tomorrow? Like, is it this week?
I don't know. It's a great question, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know. It also feels like the guys played pretty fucking hard for Tiger in Melbourne. Like, he's got experience being a captain, and they would be pretty rah and like, hey, let's trot out the best guys. I think you've talked about Spieth starting to play great golf. Spieth's also having a kid. Like his wife's having a kid in the next couple months as well. That's
July, yeah.
right back to where we were a few years ago, right?
He had
And
a kid 2 weeks before the Ryder Cup last time. That's a different thing, but
point stands though of like, Zalatoris is hurt. Who knows if Cam Young is sticking around? Who knows if Ben Griffin stays hot? Like there's all sorts of X factors here. And it feels like, man, like the thing is, and then like we've got like, that's even looking forward. Like this to me is the start for Keegan of like, I think Keegan's going to play really freaking well at Caves Valley. Like that course sets up exceptionally well for him up in Maryland. I think he's going to play well at FedEx. I think he's going to play well at a few other events. And like, he could well just straight up play his way onto the team. And then what do you do then? Let's say he plays his way onto the team, in 6 to 8 weeks, you're even closer then. And who knows?
That's where I think they're closer to making him playing captain than they are finding a new captain. Like I think that's a more likely scenario here than trying to find somebody else to take over.
I mean, Trevor said it on the broadcast yesterday, and he kind of intimated it today. He was like, hey, like playing captain is like damn near impossible. Trevor's one of the most no, I know that's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
Let somebody else be cap. That's the whole fucking point.
What happens if you change captains next week and then Keegan plays poorly the rest of the year? Then what? Do you still pick him?
I think you commit to it. Or
why can't he just deputize his
assistant
assistant captains? Like, can Webb Simpson take over?
And he can still be part of the decision making.
Yeah, he can still sit down with them and give input. Keegan,
with this win, so you guys have been screaming at me for months that he's going to qualify on points. I told you he has to win 2 signature events. He's still like another one might not still do it. He moves up into 9th.
Yeah, but Solly, like 3 weeks ago, you were also shitting on him for like being behind like Joe Highsmith I think everybody's seen this coming.
That's not accurate. Oh, in the point standings, yes.
Yeah. And I think everybody's kind of seen this progression coming. It's like it's been a pretty steady, obvious thing that like, hey, this is flashing red lights. This is happening right now.
And that's where I've trusted his words when he said it specifically. I'm not going to pick myself. I'm going to, if I qualify, I'm only going to play on the team if I qualify on points. And now he's asked about it point blank on TV and responds with Go USA. So he's going to soak the fuck out of this being the lead narrative on Golf Channel and every program, including this one, for the next 3 months. I'm of the opinion that that's a completely unnecessary distraction for this team. That is of
totally. That's bad leadership.
Yes, it is bad leadership. It is 100% bad leadership.
So you should tell him, hey, you know what? You're in the mix. You're no longer the captain. You're the captain
Sure.
at Adair Manor or Hazeltine or wherever the fuck they're having it next, and we're going from there.
Well,
PGA
guys,
of America.
That's
fucking mess.
It's a great talk. The one thing that I've learned definitely in the last 5 years in professional golf is that people mean everything that comes out of their mouth all the time. They never change or pivot or anything or go back. But yeah, Keegan, he won the damn tournament. I didn't think that this would create a spiral for Team USA here. The fact that Tommy ended up choking it away. But anything else to talk about the Travelers?
I think he shot 63 in the third round, like bogey free. I mean, like I was glazing Tommy for shooting bogey free 63 in the third round, and Keegan did it as well. So,
and as clear as I can say it, TC, if he was not the captain, he would be as bold as I possibly could put a potential captain's pick at this point. Like I couldn't be more in on how he's playing. I think this whole situation has been
all right.
Let
me ask a question. I admittedly have not kept up on the ins and outs of the Ryder Cup, but I'm sure I'm asking this for several people listening.
This is good action.
What is Keegan promising to do, or what does the Keegan presidency entail that we wouldn't be getting from somebody else? That's what I don't understand at this point.
I have no info at all on how things are going behind the scenes, what the planning process of this looks like. But again, I can't live in a world where we glaze Luke Donald for how he sets up his practice groups and how he pairs guys up at different tournaments to learn about their playing profiles. And
Keegan can still do that as an assistant playing captain, right?
Sure. If you, I guess so.
Let's make Michael Jordan the fucking captain.
Sure.
And to be quite honest, that's never the way the United States team's ever going to work.
Yeah.
It's how they work at a certain level. I mean, they are looking at things at a very analytical level.
Solid, like that's just like basic.
They could truly bring over
like
like Stacey Lewis, and she can read the data and make the groupings. And like I think you just need somebody. He's going to get fed the data, and then you just put the groups together and send them out. Like I truly
think
don't
a lot
see
of this.
strategy.
I think a lot of this is a commentary on how irrelevant and incompetent Zach Johnson was versus
correct. And
anybody else.
I think this is where I'm surprised you won't meet me closer here, Randy, of the human element of this part of like human elements of being a good leader, like airing out our behind the scenes stuff. Like Neil is an excellent leader. He's very good at like having tough conversations. He's good at taking ownership of things. He's good at dictating where you're messing up, where you can help the team, where you can blah, blah, blah. And like that, like I've done enough of these interviews with past captains on the European side of like learning what makes a good leader, what makes a good Ryder Cup plan, what makes how they continue to get the best out of players that are usually not as talented as the other side and overachieve in this event is like where I've spent hours upon hours to the point where in my brain is not capable of throwing that part out and just putting anybody into that spot to be able to do that. I have no idea if Keegan's doing it well or will do it well.
What's proving
I don't,
you
I would feel better about somebody who's been in this role for a year. He's had the job for a year than I would just like subbing them out because he's had a hot stretch of golf. That's my stance on it. Like, I don't think I go back to like the selection process was literally Seth Waugh being like, you know, what would be neat? Be like, that is
if we
unfortunate.
chose Keegan, right? And like that's the whole thing. And that's not a slight on Keegan. Who knows? He could be.
But much like Tommy in the 18th fairway, you got your club, you made the commitment. You got to swing it. Nope, we're not going back for wedge. You got your 9-iron. Just
like,
swing it.
It's like cutting your nose off to spite your face.
Now I will agree with a lot of what you said, Tolly. I think it sounds great. I do question in a 3-day event where it's an exhibition. I don't know if we can compare it to some other team sports and team aspects. I plead ignorance there. But I do think like the U.S. is going to set the course up how they want. Like you said, it took a miracle for the Europeans to beat them at Medina. Like, to me, it feels like, man, we're going to roll the balls out at Bethpage and the U.S. is probably going to win. I just can't. If Keegan is playing good enough golf, I'd much rather have him as a player than I just cannot get myself to care about like, well, he needs to be the captain. We said he was going to be the captain.
Also solid.
When the captain is in charge of making the decisions on who's going to be on the team, that's where the problem lies big for me. Like, it's not some overarching person above them being like, oh, he should be on the team. And I'll make this decision. It's his decision to make.
There's input from everywhere.
At some point, the strength of the European team lies in the fact that it's decentralized and it's not about who the captain is. It's about the framework and the philosophy and how unified everybody is and how consistent it is. And so I think from hey, maybe it's a short-term loss, but I think like, let's say Brandt Snedeker is the captain or Tiger's the captain. Let's say Brandt's the captain. Brandt's the captain at the President's Cup. We've bitched about how little connectivity there is between the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup as far as, you know, testing out younger guys or getting younger guys experience. Hey, that could be a win right there. Or you're still using the same analytics team. You still have the same, you know, team of assistant captains, which probably have already been assigned. Hey, these 6 guys are your guys. These 6 guys are your guys. And there's out of a pool of 24 guys or whatever. I don't know. I just think it's like, I don't think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think you're just putting a new figurehead in place, ideally, if the team is set up coherently at all. But maybe they're so early that like they don't have a coherent hierarchy yet.
I don't know. It seems like we can go around, like the point we can go around on this for 20 minutes. Like, I don't disagree with what you're saying. That we can do that is kind of like, this feels unnecessary. Yeah. I don't know why we're here. The easiest path from here to me is no, here's what we're doing. Like this eliminates all other aspects of it. And
I think it's probably like, do that. Ideally, like, I think, you know, we talk about Luke Donald. I think Luke Donald's great at the subjective stuff. I think Dodo Molinari is a fucking genius. And I think he's a big reason why Europe's done so well. And he's the connective tissue between Thomas Bjorn and Eduardo, who's going to be a future captain, and and Luke and Paul McGinley and all those guys. And I think that the fact that his opinion matters is part of the reason why, like, I don't think that's been the case on a US side, because nobody can set their ego aside and let someone else make the decisions.
I would respect Keegan a lot more in all this if at the opening press conference he would have said, yeah, I might pick myself. And then it'd be like, okay, that's fair game. And now it's like, I just think those words should have mattered.
But like, even if he picks himself, that's the whole, like, I don't like, I would never begrudge him for changing his mind. I think the whole argument is, can you be a playing captain? That's the whole, like, that should be where the thing is. Like, if he said, I'm going to pick myself, cool. Like, is that even feasible to be a playing captain?
Yeah, I've all gone under the assumption that if he's playing, it also means he's still the captain. I've not heard it or felt it feel like that there's somebody else is about ready to take over the captaincy duties. But I could be wrong there. I'm not working off any information there. So
I would just love to know, like, who's Keegan's right-hand man too. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Or woman. Hey, my aunt, Pat, she's the right-hand woman, right? Like, I mean, truly, like, surprise this, or set somebody, hey, you know what? They're going to handle some stuff and it's going to be a consortium here. Anyway.
I do like, Solly, the fact of where you want this team to go and the U.S. captaincy and having a player that moves into that. And I think that what you're searching for and trying to find a comp for Luke Donald, I don't necessarily think Keegan is that guy either. I think Luke has the respect because of hard work and dedication to a lot of those guys for a lot of years leading up to it. And I don't think Keegan, even though he's been thrust into that position, maybe not thrust, but asked to be in that position, he rightfully says, I'm not that close with them. Yep. And I don't know, even though he's in that position, if they have that amount of respect for him as a person, let alone for the position that it is, if there is people second guessing him or whatnot. But anyway, guys, Russ Henley,
last thing. Super last thing. If you tell me now that Keegan's going to be even like an average or mediocre captain, like I'd be like, all right, well, fucking go ahead. Like, just go ahead, fly it out and go play. Like, I don't care. Like, I have belief and faith that he would be better. Like, I've been in on the Keegan captaincy for that reason, and think that he has the passion.
It was a curveball.
Yeah. I think it can be really good. I think this mode can be really good and lead to a somewhat good system. That's just a gut.
Fuck it. Let's bring in Don Reed to be the captain, or Mickelson, Randy.
Would love that. The hood man. Somebody.
Yeah, but again, just mathematically,
I think Bradley being a part of the playing team makes a ton of sense at Bethpage. Like, just from what makes the best event, like, I would love to see him, given his current form, play up in New York. Like, they love him up there. I think that adds to the event.
They love him up in New York. So is it
in the Northeast broadly?
He's a Johnny.
He's a Johnny. Come on.
All right, that was fun. That was spirited.
It's great. It's good cut. It's fun. It just is like, maybe I shouldn't be this invested. I know I shouldn't be this invested in the U.S. winning this thing, but I'm amazed at the discourse of it all. But I guess I should not be at this point. But so just for, like, truly, if we're going by his word, he is 2,300 points short of the 6th place finish, which is $2.3 million. So he'd have to either win the Open, which you get 1.5 points for. You got to also not get passed by Mav McNeely, Brian Harmon, and you got to jump Ben Griffin and Colin Morikawa, and Harris English is right on your tail. Like, it's going to still have to be a sprint. He's going to have to win probably one more, a playoff event or the Open, or multiple second place finishes in the big money events to qualify on points. Just get, for the listeners' sake, on the
for the record, let me be the devil's advocate here. He's also the 17th ranked data golf player in the world at the moment. I'm sure his running 50, if he continues to play well,
I'm talking top 6 qualification aspect only. He's easily within the top 12 of any period you look at of his play, which I've long since acknowledged and read into the record every single weekend. I think
back to Travelers. I think Russell Henley again was disappointed in what he shot today. I think overall, like Neil said earlier, he's a contract killer. He missed today. He missed on his contract killing. But we saw the chip in at the end. We saw some putts there. He had 4 rounds under 70. He played great. Harris English played great. T4, kind of a backdoor there, but 67, 68, 67, 65.
And I'll say for Henley's standpoint, I think he moved up to 4th in the rankings by my math. But
okay.
Henley's a 36-year-old who's won 5 times in his career. I don't know if he gets contract
like solid
status, but
if you were gonna be relative to his talent level or relative to his raw ability. But like solid, like if you were gonna, like, setting all of this aside, if you had to win the Ryder Cup to save your life, would you choose Russell, Henley, or Keegan Bradley to be on the team?
like the last singles match?
All of it. Like, I mean, because, all right, like, let's say Russell only tees it up twice. That's putting pressure on other guys and all of that. Say Keegan plays 3 times, all of that. Totality.
My hesitation should speak for my respect for Keegan's game. It's close. It's too close to call. I don't feel strongly either way. I think they're both in around the same bucket. I like Henley a lot because I think he is a really good pairing for Scotty Scheffler. And I think that eliminates us having to do the Burns narrative stuff. They were great together at the President's Cup last year. And that felt like we have a partner for Scotty. I think they pair really well. And I think that's one you can send out 3 times.
Okay.
Just getting a new update here. I believe Keegan was just on Golf Central. Said, I will play if I feel like I will help the team win.
Wow. He potentially changed his mind.
Captain,
Imagine that.
Leadership, baby. Leadership.
People are capable of changing their mind.
Leaders,
Captain,
baby.
Oh my
Captain.
gosh.
Not meaning what they say when they say things. I love to hear that from the captain.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll go over well.
Good stuff.
Scotty was a 3rd round 72 away from this thing. I mean, Scotty probably should have won this thing in his sleep. Rory, weird 2nd and 3rd round, but some signs of life from Rory after a bad stretch. Brian Harmon, he's doing stuff, continues to do stuff. Harry Hall, I didn't know he was in the field, finished T9. Justin Thomas, with one of the more befuddling 3rd rounds I've ever seen before.
9 on 13 on Saturday, or else he would have been.
And hit a volunteer, or almost hit a volunteer. He apologized profusely twice, though, right off the bat. Appreciated that. The Pat in the Hat finished T12. Yeah. Other than that, I think that's kind of a wrap on Travelers.
Spieth WD from round 1. Hovland WD'd with a neck injury, unfortunately, on Sunday. Yeah, not to go back on Fleetwood stuff, but Adam Schefter comparing to Dak Prescott. Ooh. Honestly, that might have been needed to be your mulligan, TC.
No, but like
there.
No.
That was
Schefter's a mouthpiece for agents, and
my guy Shefty might have nailed that earlier.
No, Dak would have shit on himself. Dak shit on himself, and he wouldn't have come back from he wouldn't have gotten to the Super Bowl. Dak wouldn't have. Whereas I feel like Tommy got there. So not gonna do that. I love the Nick Dunlap got the fire emoji on the app on Friday afternoon while being tied for dead last, which was sick. Not dissimilar from Tommy getting the fire emoji today on Sunday afternoon while being +1 for the round. After I think he made 1 birdie on the back 9 on 11. It was sick. So anything else? We got Windham. We got to talk Windham.
I mean, Windham apologized profusely and owned the moment really, really strongly from the U.S. Open when saying, I've had a lot of highs and lows in my career, especially this year, some lows. I made a mistake that I deeply regret. I'm very sorry for what happened, but I'd also like to move on, not only for myself, but for Oakmont, for the USGA, and kind of focus on the rest of this year and things that come up. I still want to try to make the Ryder Cup team. I still am on the outside looking in for the FedEx Cup. So I'm starting to move on and focus on those things. So I think that's kind of done and dusted then. It's kind of
honestly, I don't even think we need to say anything else about Windham. It was I don't know. It was just like reporting the news. I thought that was newsworthy. And I think Windham showed us very, very clearly who he is and what he's about. And that was the 2nd major in a row that he's caused a kerfuffle. Like he damn near decapitated a volunteer at Quail Hollow, and had another
volunteers
shitty apology, and then made an activation out of it with one of his sponsors. So just do better, my man. And just generally speaking, there's a lot of other stuff floating around. Do better.
Some not noteworthy weeks. Xander shot 4 over this week. That's not great. Big Tone 9 over. Max was 2 over. Akshay 2 over. Kim Young 1 over. Just kind of some lingering Ryder Cup names there. Sepp and Shane Lowry had some tough weeks as well.
Ryder Cup locks, though.
For sure. For sure. Nothing could possibly happen to change that. Let's move over to the women's side. Randy, why don't you take us to Frisco, Texas for the KPMG Women's PGA?
Yes, thank you. Not near the drama today. Your headline, Minjee Lee wins the KPMG Women's PGA, a very, very deserving win. She actually kind of won it Saturday and finished it off today. She shot a bogey-free 69 Saturday, which I think is probably the round of the week. She was in the final group. She started, I think she was 4 shots back of Gino Saturday morning and was the only player up until that point to not make a bogey. Found herself entering Sunday ahead. She had a 4-shot lead going into Sunday, and she did not play great today, particularly on the front 9, few early bogeys. I think she went out in 39. I thought the turning point for Minjee, the lead did get down to 2 strokes at one point. Minjee was 3 over par, I think after her 10th hole, and you had Austin Kim, who started the day 9 shots back, had a fabulous round of golf. She would end up shooting 68. She got it to 1 under. I think at times Gino was still there at like 1 under to Minjee's 3 under, but nobody could get closer than that. I thought the shot of the day or the turning point, the key moment for Minjee was on the par 3 13th. Yep. Players were struggling to get back to that back left pin, kind of surrounded by bunkers. You had a hard wind left to right as you're looking at it.
Which, Randy, like, they did a great drone shot of that one, and like that's one of my favorite holes on the entire course. Yeah. And I'm sure like that would be one that like they would have issues with. That was like a defining moment of like you either have to hit a shot back there or you have to hit a really good lag putt to get it and then make a 6-footer.
Yeah, and that's what Minjee did. She played out right. It was like the slowest putt on property, kind of uphill into the wind, probably into some grain. She left it 8 feet 11 inches short. She had a par putt. Gino had a par putt kind of just outside of her. Gino missed. Minjee rolled it right in the center of the cup. So she pars 13. She flips over to the par 5 14th, gets just a nice tidy birdie there, heads to the short par 4 15th. Again, gets up and down for a nice birdie. And that was kind of the icing on the cake for Minjee. So we can dive into the rounds. This was Minjee's 3rd career major championship. Depending on how you feel about the Evian,
she went from 1 to 3 today. She went from 1 to 3.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yep. She won the Evian in 21. She won the U.S. Women's Open in 22, and now the KPMG here this year. It's her 11th LPGA title. I think what's probably most interesting, she joins with her 3rd major now. She joins a group that includes Lydia Ko, Inji Chun, Anna Nordquist. Yanni Sang is still out there doing it. Yanni's got 5 majors, but hasn't made a cut since 2018. So I don't really consider Yanni Sang.
I mean, doing it might be.
Yeah, right.
She keeps getting the bad side of the draw.
She's teeing it up.
Yeah.
But this major, Minjee now vaults ahead of Nelly, who has 2, Lilia Vu, who has 2, Brooke Henderson has 2, Yuka Sasso. I mean, take your pick. There were a lot of women of kind of the current generation.
She has 1
with 2 majors, 1 major, and I think this puts Minjee up there in the class, like with Lydia Ko. She doesn't have the Hall of Fame, the totality, the Hall of Fame career that Lydia does, but I think Minjee, like, it's not a coincidence that I think Minjee was kind of the cream that rose to the top this week at a difficult course. There was a premium on both. You had to hit the ball well. But man, the long putter has done wonders for Minjee Lee. She has looked so comfortable on the greens, made a number of clutch par putts, some really good birdie putts. And so I think it's a great result. I'm curious. We can go a few different ways here. I think one of the big stories is, like, was this a good tournament? What did we think about Fields Ranch East? So you guys tell me what direction do you guys want to go here? We can highlight some other players as well.
I think Randy, I think where I'd like to take it is, I think that we don't see the best of Minjee because we don't see the ladies challenged enough.
Real golf.
Yeah. And I think that I think that when the going is tough, like I know she was bummed about US Women's Open, just not getting the job done there. And I think, she put the work in and everything and made it happen here. But like, this was a war of attrition for sure. I mean, was this too difficult? Yeah, we could probably talk about the Kerry Higgs setup and all that. I think we're talking about a golf course that was built to, like, it was almost Gil Hanse's dare to the governing bodies of, like, cool, if you're not going to do anything about the golf ball, or you're not going to regulate anything or govern the game, then, like, this is the shit that we have to do to challenge the best players in the world, and namely the best men in the world who have 120, 130 foot apexes on stuff coming into the greens, instead of, like, I do think there's setup stuff. And I think eight's probably an example. I think setting us, I think there's a differentiation between setup stuff with tees and setup stuff with pins as well. Like, there was a lot of intimation from Beth Ann Nichols and others that, like, that the PGA of America or the LPGA is arbitrarily trying to get it to a certain yardage number. I don't think I could tell you what the yardage number was for the last, like, any of the last, like, 10 women's majors. If it was 6,300, if it was 6,500, if it was 6,800, I don't give a shit. Like, nobody's trying to, it's not like the men where it's like, oh, this is sub 7,000 yards, or this is sub 7,400 yards or whatever. But I think it just feels like there's this whole undercurrent of, why would you make us look bad? Or why would you, why are we making bogeys when, like the shit that Sophia Popov, who I like,
well, should we read
Instagram
some quotes
the other night? Like that to me, like, if a guy posted that, he would get vilified and laughed out of the building. And I think that like this, it's like women's golf needs to, I think it needs to go both ways of, like, cool, you want this 10, 12, $15 million purse? Cool. Like, we're going to set it. This is a major championship. This is probably the second best major of the year. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sophia's quote was, I'll start by saying a big thanks to KPMG for continuing to support and elevate the women's game, increasing purses and making every event bigger than the last. With that said, the PGA managed to set up the golf course to make us look silly and incapable the majority of the time out there. 6-hour rounds in brutally windy conditions with pin placements that were mostly inaccessible. Playing 30 to 40 feet away from the pins all day is not enjoyable to us, nor to the spectators and viewers at home. Unfortunately, I barely missed my spots both days and ended up being very costly. So
yeah,
there's
from Sophia.
It's tough, but there's pieces of it that I think can explain some of the disconnect here. Like, Stacey Lewis had some comments in the early part of the week. She said, like, today was hole locations on sides of hills. Then you throw the wind in there. There was no way to stop it on number 8 again today. We should be playing from the front of that tee, probably 120 yards. You can't hold the green. We had such a good run with this championship at very good golf courses, and then we come here. The issue of all this is make us look good. We're trying to get more people to watch women's golf, and setups like this, they don't help us. This is when we have our biggest stages, network TV and all that, and we're making very good players look silly. And I think, like, if I can, where this gets tough is I think there are legitimate criticisms to be made of the PGA of America, both in the history of how they've treated this event and the way they swoop in and set up one women's event, essentially the top level per year, and don't get everything right.
Just generally about, Quail Hollow,
correct.
Like Keegan Brad. Like, I think the PGA of America has a larger leadership issue going on here.
They don't get the benefit of the doubt some of this. Whereas, like, I don't love these comments from either of them, but if I was to say, like, Stacey is, of course, sponsored by KPMG. And as important context here, I spent 9 years of my career working for KPMG, but, like, this is more of a sponsor-led event than it is treated like a major from the PGA of America. Like, KPMG saved this event. They've taken the purse and tripled it over the course of last 5 years, whatever that might be. There's summits there. There's leadership conferences. There's a pro-am. Like it's treated. It's like it's KPMG's event, and I think there's not a ton of trust between the players and the PGA of America versus when like some bad things happen with the setup or things they view as bad are going to take it out on them. I think some of this, like of what like Sophia is explaining here, is like windy conditions, having to play 30 to 40 feet away from pins all day. To me, that's major championship golf. But some of it's also like what Stacy's saying on number 8, like that stuck out like a sore thumb. Like you should play that hole from farther up. And if the pin's down, if the wind's down off the right, you don't need to put the pin in the front right. Like it just, you're not really
that's bad setup. But Stacy's also saying bad golf course. And she says we've been to some great places, and then like that's where she loses me. And then Sophia's not the right person to be making that statement after she shot 76-80, right?
Don't disagree. I think that's where like an important conversation or element, this interesting part of this conversation is like I look at how Chambers Bay and Heron Hills were vilified. Like the barrier to entry to becoming a major championship golf course, if you're a new golf course, it's massive. Like there's just not that history. There's people come in suspicious and are
they
used
look
to a certain
too.
thing, and it looks very different. It's aesthetically not the most pleasing. And like again, to be fair, like this tournament should not be here in late June. Cody, you were out there. Oh, like it's not a good spectator experience. So like, are we doing this for the spectators? Are we doing this for the television audience? Are we doing this for the players? Kind of seems like this one didn't really hit any of those, which I think is unfortunate. And I don't know. It's hard because I do think this is a very interesting golf course that I think is very aesthetically unpleasing to the eye. And I'm usually one to discount that. But again, kind of just like watching Travelers and watching like the arenas set up around those holes and how well that was framed and how big that atmosphere was. And like, I struggle to picture that. I know the men's audiences would be bigger on that course, but I struggle to picture that site delivering great all around major championship experience in the same way. I don't know. I'm curious how you guys feel.
Yeah. I mean, Cody, what did you see out there this week? What's the,
it was hot. I saw a lot of people struggling with the heat and wind. I think, first of all, I think the one element that you touched on, Sully, that would say probably is happy this week is KPMG. They got all their activations in. It was a success for them overall. Pro-Am was filled. They had people on wait lists trying to get in there. And you know, it's wild to think still in my 4th year covering the LPGA Tour that there's this high profile Pro-Ams on weeks of majors. But yeah, they're happy. They got all their activations in and everything else like that. But it was at the
celebrating because it's a Tuesday Pro-Am, not a Wednesday Pro-Am.
Yep. But the issue is that Tuesday Pro-Am, literally there was 4 tee times available before that Pro-Am, and there was 4 tee times available afterwards because they shut the golf course at 5 o'clock for maintenance. So players were practicing off-site on Tuesday. You couldn't even go out and do any major prep that you wanted to do. And then
was
Wednesday,
the West course open or no?
Nope. Couldn't even. The whole week, West was closed, which I thought was like, okay, that kind of makes sense, I guess, for competition days. But even like just for people to go out and play and hit shots, it didn't.
Same green surfaces,
everything,
and stuff like that.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I don't know whose decision it is on where it falls in the calendar, but this is coming back in 2031, and it cannot be at this date. Absolutely cannot. It's to the players. It's hard for them. It's hard for spectators. It's hard for TV. It's hard for everyone, man. It's just very freaking hot. You know, when you're looking at triple digits and, wind that's not going to stop. And I talked about this last night, but May, when the PGA Championship comes in here in 2 years, it's going to be very soft. The temperature is going to be easier, but we get afternoon showers all of May, and the humidity is going to be super high, and it's going to play completely different than we saw, this week. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of like on course, complex setup things that they're going to have a ton of lessons learned from that they'll improve, and it will be bigger because it'll be a more substantial build out for the men. But once you leave like kind of the 18th, 9th hole around here this week, you're really just out there with the bottle of water you have in hand, and that's it.
Like it looks like the desert. almost.
Well, it is. I mean, it's North
yeah,
Texas.
prairie. Yeah. No, but I think I don't know. It seems like a lot of things are being rolled into one snowball going down the hill. Is like, hey, this wasn't a good week. And why wasn't this a good week? Because the stuff you said with accessing the golf course, the heat, not being aesthetically pleasing, the coverage stinks. Like they can't even be bothered to tell us what ladies are putting for. Like Solly and I were watching today, and they're flashing a 12-footer from Gino up on the screen, and we have no idea whether it's for birdie or bogey, right? And that's basic
Or any
stuff.
of their
all the
people telling you if it goes left to right, right to left, nothing.
Yeah. Not to mention all the subjective commentary and Tommy Roy not having all the toys. Like there's no, there's one or two drones out there. There's no tracers or anything like that. But add to that, it's not an aesthetically pleasing golf course. I think it's an interesting golf course. Like I enjoyed watching people hit golf shots on there. I think the other kind of unspoken thing is like I think there's just a much larger variety of players on the LPGA tour than there are on the PGA tour.
100%.
I think week to week, so many of these ladies can get by with bunting the ball around or bringing it in at a super low apex and running it in from the front of a green. And when Nelly said it in some of her comments of like when it's, and she hits the ball as high as anybody, of like when you can't run it in or they're elevated greens, and then all right, so you got to have a high apex, but then it's windy as shit. Like that's tough. That's a tough combination, right?
Well, I think that's where points get mixed. I think we take a little bit of what Beth Ann said. We take a little bit of what you just said from Nelly, and then Mel had a really good point and on Golf Today or Golf Central, whatever it is. And she was like, yeah, okay, so on the LPGA Tour, the average 7-iron goes 150 yards. On the PGA Tour, the average 7-iron goes what? 180, 185, 190 probably. This week at Travelers, they played at 6,700 yards. This week at Frisco, they averaged 6,550. It was the shortest all week today. All right. So if on average you add that up throughout the bag, between the men and the women, they're playing 1,100 yards less than the men. Why is that not there? There has to be a middle somewhere when they're looking at tee boxes and distance and and what they want to actually like. Greens are meant to accept a proper shot, right? Some are short irons, some are long irons, and it's not just an overall distance thing.
That's a bad comp. This is the shortest course on the PGA Tour. That grew the rough up like crazy. Like I don't think
the
LPGA Tour needs to just get to a number, and I don't think that this place is wide and you can whale on driver and it's firm. It plays shorter than the stated distance. But at the same time, I think that hole locations and yardage are different things, right? Or Beth Ann's also someone who's just argued for like more birdies week to week, like more birdies and eagles or shorter par fives or whatever. And like that to me is like, that's de-skilling. That's making it to where Minjee Lee or Jeeong Titakun or Maya Stark, like they are behind the 8 ball, or even Lydia Ko. Like, and that is working against what the LPGA Tour needs more of. Is we need stars. We need players with very, very discernible skill sets to separate themselves and do it consistently and regularly and throughout the season. Like there's too much parity. And I think some of that is due to the setups. And I think part of the backlash this week was because a lot of these ladies, they just don't see this. Like the US Women's Open, they expect it. Lancaster, really difficult golf course set up pretty fairly, but otherwise, like the wind was just another variable this week. And I think if they get similar thing with that wind at Erin Hills, if it was that windy, I think we're hearing similar stuff. Or right. And then I think there's a certain maybe 20 or 30% of it is like, yeah, some bad setup stuff from Carrie Haig and the PGA of America as well. Of like, I think the USGA is just straight up better at setting up golf courses for all genders, all age groups, I mean, shit, they do a U.S. Adaptive Championship, right? Like they're pretty conscientious about how, how they choose venues and how they set up golf courses and all of that. And so I think that overall, I'm drowning on here, but overall, like there's just it's a big witch's brew of like 5 or 6 different issues going into one thing here.
I think that's right. You guys have talked about the setup. Yes. Could they have done specific things better on the setup and on specific holes, specific days? Of course. I don't think we ever saw like goofy golf to where that's where like what Sophia Popov was saying. Like, I just, okay, you got to play 30 to 40 feet away from a flag. Like that's the proper shot. That's the test, right?
Yes.
And then, who
There's
can
plenty
make
of birdies
putts,
out
whose
there
short
too.
game is better.
There's two 275 yard par 4s out there. The part like
Right.
3 of the 4 par 5s were very, very gettable. And I think like 6 of the top 12 ladies in the world were in the top 10.
Yep.
It's a fabulous
heading into the final round. Like, I'm not sure what else you could ask for as far as identifying the right players.
Yeah.
Again, it just goes back to like these new venues just don't get any benefit of the doubt. If this was, Wingfoot and the scores were like this, I don't think this would be the same reaction.
No, and I think some of it's not aesthetically pleasing around the property. So whatever.
They got to figure out.
I think my big issue, going back to what Stacy said, I think it was really easy to direct frustration at the golf course at the setup this week. But when Stacy says, the issue, make us look good, right? We're trying to get more people to watch women's golf. I wish she would, because she's not afraid to speak her mind. She has spoken her mind before. She was very adamant a couple years ago. The Solheim Cup and the Ryder Cup should have been more jointly connected, right? That was a big missed opportunity for international golf. I wish Stacy would use this platform to talk about, from a fan perspective, like, listen, Stacy, the broadcast doesn't do a lot to make you guys look good, right? The setup, the amount of people there or not there. Like there are so many different things, and week to week, right? It just, if we want to really have a conversation about getting more people to watch women's golf, it's not because of the setup at Fields Ranch for the KPMG Women's PGA. There are much bigger issues that I wish I could see this passion on. Start a dialogue, get the ball moving on some of this other stuff.
Beyond that, Randy, Stacy's the same one who's lobbied for Carlton Woods to be like the home of the LPGA. That place has nothing going for it. And like I would argue that more people tuned in to see Fields Ranch or to see like wind and carnage than otherwise, right?
Yeah, because we don't see the best of the best men and women. We don't see them get tested. We don't see them struggle like this. We saw it at Oakmont. I thought the U.S. Women's Open was fantastic. It wasn't as, quote unquote unfair maybe as this, but like, and you put this right alongside of it. There's 3 weeks where it's like, yeah, par's a really, really, really good number. And it doesn't have to be every week, but there's enough room to have it a couple times a year. And again, I just, as I'm talking, I'm thinking like, Stacy, let's talk about, why are the Evian and Chevron majors? Like, let's talk about how that cheapens stuff. Let's talk about the real issues and how disjointed the schedule is. Let's, there's so many things that I wish she would speak on. And for this to kind of bubble up and be the story of the week, I just think is it's short-sighted. And I don't think it really matters.
Dude, like, why isn't this
such other big issues if we want people to watch the women's game?
Why isn't this held in the fall? There's nothing going on in the fall. They're not like worried about, who gives a shit about NFL?
Right.
Fucking play it one.
They play all fall anyway. I mean, they go to Asia. They
like have it be like the last event
their
before they
tour
go to
championship
Asia
in
or something
November.
like that. Or I don't know. That's what kills me. There were good scores every day. Like it's not like, like the low score one day was 74 either.
Right.
Like and the hole that they were complaining about, 8, Titakun birdied it 3 of the 4 days and then parted today.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it was impossible. The score is out there. And I think this is a great opportunity for for Craig Kessler, the new LPGA commissioner, to step in. He lives in fucking Dallas. He's coming from Fields Ranch, working at the PGA of America as their COO for the last 2 years. To LPGA, like that to me is like cool. Like there's your solution right there. Figure out how to fix this. So
your top 10, I should have probably led with this. Obviously, Minjee wins. Austin Kim, Shanette Wanaseon finished tied for second at 1 under par each. Tied for fourth, Jeeong Titakun and Chisato Iwai. Tied for sixth, Angel Yin and Miyu Yamashita. Tied for eighth, Somi Lee and Heejin Choi. And then tied for 10th, you had Pauline Rusin Bouchard and Wai Ling Su. A couple other notable finishes. Tied for 12th, Lydia Ko, Charlie Hall, Yalimi No, and Lexi Thompson were in that group. Nelly Korda finished tied for 19th. Leona McGuire was another name in that group. Ronnie Yin did not play that well today. She finished tied for 23rd. And our U.S. Women's Open champion, Maya Stark, she ended up finishing tied for 47th. But, man, if you scroll down through the KPMG leaderboard, it's the very good players are in the top 25. Like, you weren't faking your way around. Yeah. They weren't making, the very best look silly. I think a lot of women got exposed this week, and I understand being upset and frustrated by that, but I don't have much patience for simply blaming it all on the setup, because I think
Randy, I do have patience on being pissed about pace of play, because that sucks. Like being out in the heat for 6.5 hours sucks.
I got to take on that.
Twosomes, which is
smaller field.
Really rare for an LPGA major. It's rare when they actually get off in twosomes on the weekend. I was happy to see they went off on twosomes Saturday morning. The final group ends up playing in just under 6 hours. Somebody smarter than me is going to have to explain like how, I guess, everybody was within time par. Did we take that many more strokes? I don't understand how we can get that much of a backup. Today they went off in threesomes. They were within the window. I think it cheapens a major a little bit, sending split tees, threesomes. When we talk about this event, though, where I will agree with Sophia is this event has grown in stature. Like, kudos to KPMG. Kudos to the PGA of America, I guess. I think it's a lot KPMG, if I'm being honest. But we had more of this event on television than we've ever had. Now, you needed a Peacock subscription to really take advantage of it. But there was a lot more of this golf tournament available to view. You had featured group coverage.
And the quality of the broadcast was better in what we had as well versus Baltusrol a few years ago or
a little. I still think like when you get to network TV on Sunday, I still don't think it's a dynamic broadcast. Yeah. I don't think NBC Golf Channel puts on a good broadcast. They do one a year, the U.S. Women's Open. Yeah. I'm not sure any of the personalities in the booth really bring a lot. Like, man, all good people, I'm sure. I've heard enough to kind of make my mind up that we need some new blood in the booth. Other than that, like, truly, I complain about NBC broadcasts. I feel like they check boxes. We don't need to do that, but it's not a great broadcast. It simply isn't. It doesn't meet the moment time and time again.
Nothing to distinguish it from a normal weekend, unfortunately.
Any reason why they don't? Man, this would be June 22nd, basically like 2 days after a few days after the summer solstice at Chambers Bay on the West Coast in prime time.
It becomes where does KPMG want to take their clients more than picking a golf course, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bit of the tail wagging the dog. So they're going to Hazeltine next year.
Cool.
They'll be back here to Fields Ranch in 2031. But yeah, it's a lot of Baltusrol, Congressional, Hazeltine, Valhalla's in there.
Those are fine. I think those are fine, like all in. And we can get into it on like a future pod of like what we learned about the men's PGA and the Ryder Cup. based on what we've seen through 2 events here between the senior PGA last year, a couple years ago, and this event. Like, I think it's going to test the guys. I think it's going to be cool. I think they're going to hate it.
I think I'm concerned, honestly, about like what fans are going to think.
I think it's going to be a bad spectator experience. Yeah.
Well, I think and watching on television, like, I think testing the players and it being something people want to tune in to watch to see the golf course are 2 different things. And if they don't get the aesthetics figured out, I had pros texting me this week like, "Hey, is that course ass?" I was like, "No, it's not. Like, it's truly not. Like, it's a very good golf course, very good golf holes, very good, just a ton of great contouring going on. You can play in a lot of different wind directions. It just, the second you flip it on, you're just like, what are we doing here? Because they're just all of the exterior stuff just does not look filled in, natural, or it just doesn't look like it's supposed to
Dallas.
be. Yeah. So, I have concern for it for 2027 and beyond. I mean, just from what I think people are going to think of it, because I think those hurdles are bigger to clear than we probably talk about much. Because you don't have to concern yourself with it for so many golf courses because they've been there a while, or we just don't see new golf courses very often on the professional stage. And when you don't, some of that stuff can really stick out.
Randy, I think a couple of MCs to call out.
Yeah.
Lynn, I'll own that one. We're getting near the point with Lynn that I think
we either got to see something or we got to,
Yeah. Amy Yang, defending champ, Mao Saigo. Lilia, I think Lilia played pretty well relative to what she's been playing like.
Yeah, she's just in a bad place.
Yeah. Madeline, I thought Madeline was going to thrive here. Lauren, Ayaka Firoué, Celine Boutier. But again, I think like Yulimi No, Minjee, I don't know, it just seemed like the players that we expected to play pretty well for the most part played well.
Solly, how do you, I think one of the maybe discussion questions from this week is, what grade would you give Gino for the week if we're grading her in totality? She was
B+, Randy. Yeah, B+.
She was your 36-hole leader. She's obviously awesome player week to week on the LPGA Tour. Has had good major results. But yeah, T4 here. But I think I'm just left a little disappointed. I think B+ is fair.
The premium of all the things we've talked about of what was on being tested here this week gives it a bigger bump. I know she went backwards on the weekend, but a T4 finish when the golf got real, I think is a good sign for Gino, more than it is a disappointment that she didn't get the job done. I mean, Minjee was that good, like very clearly separated herself from the field. And I know it wasn't a great final round, but overall final result, I mean, for somebody that's just had a little week of a major championship record, I think this was a good result for Gino. What do you think?
Well, I'm curious before I answer, Cody, how would you grade it?
I would give her a B- there. It's shocking. She was really, really sharp and on top of everything, her ball striking and specifically her putting through 2 rounds, and then absolutely let go of everything Saturday. And then today, if you look at it, she picked up a ton of strokes usually on par 5s, and she's sitting at T40 for par 5 scoring average total for the week. But really in the weekend, she was close to like dead last in the field. She just didn't pick up anything when everybody else was. And that's because she lost control of her club face. She didn't putt very good this weekend, but putted amazing. We called that out on the sustainability models of that continuing through, but she put herself up there and she was in the hunt. And that's more than we've been able to say for so long. But Minjee was rock solid and she was no get up in her. And we called that out all the way in the preview, and that's what came true for this weekend. So I think she's a B-, but
yeah,
way better showing than she has up to this point.
If that putt doesn't go in for Minjee on 13, like I think those last few holes become a much different tournament.
I did too, and I should say Austin Kim, damn near ran in a birdie putt. I think that was on 17 for her. That would have gotten her to 2 under par, would have made things really more interesting. I think Gino made almost 200 feet of putts in round 1. I think probably made her whole entire week look a lot better than her weekend performance did. But I think it's a good thing for her to be in the final group on Saturday, be in the final group on Sunday in a major, be up close, see Minjee, see how she goes about it. I think it's a good stepping stone for Gino. I've been pretty impatient wanting her to kind of win that major. Like, come on, Gino, let's go ahead and take that step. Like, let's really establish that you're a threat in these biggest events. But I think maybe that's just on me to be a little bit more patient.
Solid, real quick.
Yeah.
What was
ahead,
your,
TC.
I don't think we ever came back to it. What was your slow play solution?
Oh, I
You
mean,
said, hey, I got something there. Is it just the gaps between
9-minute tee times? Like the USGA did a full study of
which, to be
pace of
fair,
play.
I think they did 11 minutes. They
They did
11
9 minutes
this week.
No, they did
I'm
9
looking
minutes
at
on
it.
Saturday. On Saturday, that's where the
On Saturday,
6
okay.
hour
On
backup
Sunday,
was.
they did threesomes, but at 11 minutes.
Threesome 11 minutes still isn't enough.
Still sucks.
Yeah, like you're just literally guaranteed traffic, and especially I didn't look at the tee sheet either, Cody, but I'm guessing they didn't leave any tee time gaps in there. Like, do they do 18 minutes with it? Yeah, that's like just textbook how you would do it. Is one, you would at least do 10-minute tee times, if not 11-minute gaps, and then also leave different gaps. Otherwise, one single ruling, one single lost ball, one single search is going to back up the
two
entire golf
drivable
course.
par fours,
Done.
one on the front,
Done.
one on the back. Yeah.
which
And
is
if we
also
can't get it done
weird.
on like the longest week of the year, then it's hopeless. Like we just can't hold pro golf tournaments with more than 120 players. Yeah. Bottom line.
I think there's a lot of fat you could trim out of these majors. Sorry, Cody, were you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's weird how they went with a 9-minute interval, because even like PGA Championship goes with a 10. I don't know why it was thrown off like
78
that.
players probably didn't try to get in the TV window as well, and they probably didn't want to go threesomes. That's probably
The
why.
TV, I mean, that was a.
But they blew through the TV
Honestly,
window
I feel
by
so
an
bad.
hour plus anyway, right?
On Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't even close. I think the other thing, I think Judy Rankin mentioned, I did not catch this live, but I think Judy made a comment that, listen, when we talk about Nelly, there's no way to say it other than she's been a bit underperforming given her talent level. And I'm just curious, she had a totally fine week. Didn't putt that great, still finished top 20, et cetera, et cetera. But we're getting deep into the year now. Nelly hasn't won. She's another one where I'm just like wanting to be nice to just get a little bit more from her. I think there's just something there in her game on these major weeks that it's usually the putter. But we're just not getting her, I don't think, at the height of her game enough right now.
Feels like we just kind of retreated back into just like really good Nelly, not superstar Nelly, which is a fair regression, but kind of not quite as interesting as it was last year with what she had going on.
That's a good way to.
I mean, I think overall too, it's like her putting was. I mean, she was hot and cold, but like overall it was fine. It was just her iron play stunk.
Yeah,
which is I think more concerning than the putter, right? Like she's not doing the stuff that she does really well.
Yeah, she putted really well Saturday. She putted okay today. The first couple rounds, not great. Gave shots. I guess round one, she was plus a half a stroke. Yeah, just, I don't know, kind of like a C minus if I were grading Nelly this week. But I thought she fought hard.
She showed up to the tournament and was like, yeah, I tweaked my neck. It's not good. So
had the spasm on Tuesday.
When you're starting out the week that way, you're not really helping much there. Putting overall, TC mentioned 35th for the week, but really gave up a ton approach to the green, and then she just was not good at scrambling at all.
Yeah. So yeah, anything. It was. I think it was a great winner, a totally valid, proper winner, a good leaderboard. But I think there's obviously a lot of interesting discussion around this major tournament.
I think the only other thing was like statistics matter, and having stats to validate. Like I feel like we watched Minjee play great golf, but like it's fun to know why, or it's fun to get it validated, right? So good on KPMG for continuing. No, like I think
Going around on
you know,
skate.
KPMG, yeah, I think it's a good tool. I think it's good to validate.
Nice to have. When you don't really have it, it's really nice to have.
Clueless,
yeah. So
if you don't, if you thought this week was too hot, there's another golf tournament in Dallas this coming week at Merito.
hell yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah. They had the Cody. They had the plane up, right? They had a banner.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to Dallas. Come, don't forget to come through Live Merito next weekend. Which, you know, I'm trying to remember, you know, there's going to be a ton of indoor hospitality. That's the issue this week too at KPMG on site, outside of like the KPMG village that I'm sure I don't even want to know if that was even open to the public or not, or if that was just for KPMG clients and partners and whatnot. Like,
I get you.
There's just no place to escape the heat. That won't be the issue at Merito. And probably I'm sure that it'll be packed because, you know, nobody ever gets to see Merito, and Bryson's doing activations on top of street lamps and who knows what else. But yeah, I'm sure people will be all about it.
Speaking of Merito, I think the US Senior Open is this week. Blandy's defending. Is he skipping Merito to go to the US Senior Open? Do we have a cleats replacement?
It's down in my backyard at the Broadmoor too, down in Colorado Springs.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, no, they don't let you out of that stuff, do they?
I don't know. It's tough. I feel like when you're the defending champ of a major that gets you into a senior major that gets you into a real major in the US Open.
Yeah, he won't defend the US. He's
not defending?
This is from a Live Golf article, May 20th. He won't defend his title because of Live Dallas.
Contracts, man.
Oh my God! What are we doing?
I will say a couple things.
That might be the ServPro mea culpa of the week. Right there.
not to get completely down the road of Live Dallas and setting that thing up, but just judging off of how Maya's round, or really her tournament, went last week in Meyer, and how she kind of followed up her US Women's Open. Kind of impressed on how her week went, and then major shout out to her. Did you guys see the video of her kicking her putter? And
I did.
Yeah,
it broke the head of it. Yeah,
I like seeing that. You know, show a little bit of personality sometimes.
Which, Cody, on that note too, forgot to do this, but a shout out to JJ Spawn for finishing T14, shot 66, 63 on the weekend, and like showed up in Hartford and after the most whirlwind weekend of his life, in you know, unexpected victory, and then shows up and kind of, you know, plays well again, like plays really good golf again. Like, props to that. That's big time. So, anyway,
it's crazy. Sorry, I'm just looking at the LPGA. They are going to play in the span of 8 events on the LPGA calendar are going to be 4 of their majors.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right.
But
only one of those. Three real ones. The 3 real ones.
Yeah.
In the Evian. Yeah. In an 8 tournament span. It just, I don't know. That's my other thing.
Our guy Craig has some work cut out for him.
They literally go January to late November, and we're still squeezing 4 majors into the tightest possible time frame. I just, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense.
We talked a little bit about this on Wednesday, but there was some major news on the men's professional golf front this past week, with Brian Rolapp being introduced as a new PGA Tour CEO. Jay Monahan announcing he will likely be leaving the role at the end of his contract in 18 months, at the end of 2026.
Leaving his role as commissioner. So this is a different role.
Correct. This is allegedly a different role, but it sounds like the commissioner role might be changing in its own way going forward. But that's not necessarily the news that came out with this, other than the number 2 man in line at the NFL. Brian Rolapp comes over. Not a huge golf guy, but guy knows his way around media and around the single most valuable American sport and the media market there, and is represented. We kind of got hit with the news this week and kind of just like sat with it for a little bit for as much as we've talked about a change of guard at the top, we have new leadership at the PGA Tour, and it's So all of these, it's kind of just hitting me later on, even in the week, since we talked about it Wednesday, of like all these things that we've considered not possible for a variety of reasons. I'm hit with a little bit of optimism, TC, of what could be, since we are unburdened by what has been now. Or are we? I think it's still a fair question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is essentially what we've been begging for the last 4 years. I mean, really 5 years since Monahan just was asleep at the wheel, heading into even just the discussions pre-live with Premier Golf League, and those guys just like wanted to have a conversation pre-Saudi, and then and then he used the 9/11 families as cover, like just some really reprehensible stuff that happened. And then here we are 3, 4, 5 years later, and like Jay Monahan's made close to $200 million, and he's just going to ride off into the sunset after 2026. And so it doesn't even feel real that we have somebody else leading the PGA Tour moving forward, and a real adult who, by all accounts, like Joel Beal had an awesome write-up. I think James Colgan had what was like really, really insightful from just looking back at a Fortune magazine feature, I think from 2015 or 2016, about roll-up. And like, he's not a guy that seeks out the spotlight. He's not a guy that is trying to self-promote or fluff himself. And it sounds like this is one of the few positions that he would have left his role at the NFL for. He was kind of the mastermind behind Thursday Night Football, a lot of the NFL's, international stuff. And he ran NFL Network, and they've had plenty of bad shit happen in the NFL, and NFL Network's covered it very objectively and like you would expect a journalistic entity to do. And I don't even think that's been the case at Golf Channel with certain things that have happened with the PGA Tour, and they're not even underneath the umbrella of, but that's how heavy-handed and kind of tail wagging the dog the PGA Tour has been with Golf Channel, and probably going to buy them here in the near future. So I think bottom line is you're getting a guy that is he's media savvy, he's media rights savvy. He knows how to, he knows what to do with capital. He knows how to negotiate contracts. Shout out to Jay. He got the money coming in the door. I just don't know if he knew what to do with the money once it got in the door. And
or what the product, like, I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I get most excited about with roll-up is it sounds like, he was basically like, hey, if the games aren't good, then like none of this other stuff that I'm doing matters. And, based on everybody that you talk to, whether it's NFL front office people or, journalists who cover the NFL, like to a man, everybody's like, no, this is like a very serious adult, very serious individual who like, he will give you like the best of what, kind of management has to offer. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I think it's cool that like he's product focused, but he's not a traditional golf guy to where, hey, we'll see what happens moving forward. If they have to break some stuff, like we've kind of broken a lot of the stuff that matters. We haven't broken a lot of the stuff that doesn't matter. Hopefully we can kind of move it back around, but have some malleability with the schedule and broadcast and media rights and all that stuff. So go back and listen to our Wednesday podcast. I'm sure Matt can clip some of that stuff as well. Probably more cogent explanation, but overall, I think they nailed it. And I know I've shit on Arthur Blank at times for leading the search committee and all of that, but I think they got the right guy by all accounts. So,
yeah, I hope he can come in and be himself and impose his will and not get sucked up into the Pontevedra machine of doing things how it's always been done. I was just thinking though, I feel like I'm so much more. I more positively associate PGA Tour golf these days because of how much CBS has improved.
Yeah,
it's just like half of the telecasts and Sundays are like very pleasant viewing now, and don't leave me like wanting to run through a wall, just so frustrated that like. I don't know. It's been a bounce back year, I feel like, for the PGA Tour in a lot of ways, and I think CBS is to be credited with a ton of that. And
I agree.
I did not expect to be saying that halfway through this year because
they've had great winners, I think, first and foremost, and I think it helps too that like CBS seems to cover a lot of the events that matter, at least on the PGA Tour.
Yeah,
with they have most of the signature events. So.
Yeah, they really, really do. Any other news and nuggets you want to hit here on the way out, TC?
I think, yeah, we'll see what happens with Monahan. I imagine they work with him on possibly a buyout before the end of 2026, but a lot of players unhappy there that he's just going to ride off very, very, relax in the sunset. FedEx founder Fred Smith passed away. I don't know. Seems like a pretty interesting dude. Did a lot for the PGA Tour, done a lot for golf, generally speaking, regardless of how you feel about the FedEx Cup. Sound like he was a great citizen of Memphis. Created a pretty world-class American business. So, shout out to that. And raised an NFL head coach. I think that's kind of a cool, I don't know, just feather in your cap of hey, I raised kids that still worked hard. And yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with FedEx Cup moving forward, of just how that sponsorship works and how long those ties are and everything. Yeah, so thoughts and prayers to his family, and yeah, sounded like a great man. Otherwise, I just had some random delights. Solly, JJ Spawn's dad had a Facebook post that was just so earnest and kind of, I don't know, just old fashioned, I guess.
Yeah. It looked like, hey, your son just won the little community golf event we threw together. I'm so proud of him. It was delightfully earnest and kind of old fashioned. I'm totally with you there, TC.
Yeah, it was basically hey, my son won the US Open. How cool is that?
Did you guys see this? Check it out. Here's the putt that my son won the golf tournament.
Yeah. Otherwise, Team Rose was at the races. He was at Royal Ascot over in England.
He was stunting. He was not at the race.
Yeah, he was the race.
God, he looks good in that top hat.
Looks like the fucking Monopoly man. Hate seeing him have to skip the Travelers for this, but man, love Team Rose. That's just good stuff right there. What else? I played Medina number 3 this week, and I just wanted to shout out my playing partner's staff bag. This is the big dog, Mike Gillespie. Awesome guy. I was blown away by Medina number 3. I loved it. I thought I was going to hate it based on just, everything I've watched with Ryder Cup and everything. And I'm really, really looking forward to the President's Cup next year. I think it's truly angles matter. Mike Cocking and OCM did an awesome job. So Roger Steele, shout out to everybody up there, cool golf club and cool mix of Northside Chicago and Western suburbs. I wanted to shout out the Cats sunglasses. These were just,
big.
Just I think they're doing, they're doing stuff at the Patch. Augusta National released some photos from the Muni there that they're putting in the Tiger Woods Learning Center there. But the Cat, he almost had his belt right. The belt was slightly off center of his pant line or whatever, but the sunglasses are just always dialed with the Cat. He looks like he's always about to go reel in a marlin or something like that.
Always in that power stance at every site every location visit he makes. I don't know if somebody just takes a bunch of photos of him and waits for him to make that pose, but he's always making that pose.
Tiger, give me your serious pose.
I wanted to shout out Dustin Johnson. He had a chain commercial for the Four Aces. I guess this is the official chain of celebrities and the Four Aces, just generally speaking. Jackson, these chains. So very, very cool stuff there.
I don't think you need to shout this out, TC.
I think I'm just to the point where DJ just needs to I think it might be time, DJ. And then on to the real delights. KBV's daughter Keegan, she broke 80 for the first time. Awesome stuff there. I think she's on a real heater. They won a father-daughter thing, or not even a father-daughter thing, just a best ball competition at the club last week.
Should she pick herself for the team come September?
Ben won his club championship. Our Ben Hoteling won his club championship out in Kansas City in some adverse conditions. Shout out to him. And then, I just wanted to give a shout out to Wichita. They had some big ass storms roll through, and they still managed to stage and reconstruct a lot of the grandstands in what's one of the better Korn Ferry Tour events of the year. So they've had flooding a few weeks ago, and then massive thunderstorms here this past week. So
shout out to Miles Creighton, won the Kansas Wichita Open, which I was supposed to mention that
too, right? First Canadian shoot 59 on the Korn Ferry Tour.
And he made a hole in one, I think, this week. So it was a very nice week. Could have that wrong.
Yeah.
But since putting a bow on the Keegan Bradley conversation, he did say on Golf Central, we'll play if I feel like I would help the team. Added that he would not relinquish the captaincy in that scenario. He would just put more on his assistants.
That's selfish, huh?
Hate that.
Puts you in a tough spot, Solly.
I just love that the guy that has not been good enough to be on the team or a captain for the last decade is now going to be both of those things going into 2025. What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
I love it.
Giving a shout out here on the way out. Go swing by the No Laying Up Pro Shop. There's a restock of the Imperial Performance Dad hats that has hit the shop. We got earth tones with Wayward Drive. We got navy, white, and gray with the Wayward Drive and No Laying Up strip logos. More hats coming this week too. Stay tuned to the NLU Pro Shop Instagram to see them when they drop. NLU's also joined forces with the Evans Scholars Foundation to enable us to work together with our community to establish the No Laying Up Scholarship at Miami University. They'll be given out every 4 years and funded in perpetuity. So big thanks to everyone who's already donated. We've collected a ton of money. More than 75,000 of our 500K goal. Is that the most up-to-date number? I thought I saw it even bigger.
I think we're higher than that. Even
we're creeping in on 6 digits. I think it's unbelievable.
I thought I saw.
Thank you to everybody
this week. It's been incredible. So over the past 10 or so years, many people have asked how they can get involved to help make the golf world a better place. The No Laying Up Endowed Name Scholarship is how, if you want to help us in donating, you can go to nolayingup.com/ESF. That's nolayingup.com/ESF to donate directly through our portal. If you have any questions about donating in any other ways, like donor advised funds, send a note to Casey at nolayingup.com. And she can help you out. It's going to be amazing to change a bunch of people's lives through this scholarship. And we have had a blast working with the Evans Scholars for many, many years. And it's great to kind of formalize this in the way that we have. So
it's the best charitable organization in golf.
I got to spend time with some Evans Scholars Saturday. We had our Roost Major here in Denver, the Rocky Mountain Rollers. And we had Evans caddies out there helping us with the event. It was wonderful.
Coming up this week, we have Detroit on the PGA Tour. We have the Dow on the LPGA Tour. DP World Tour is off. Live Dallas.
I don't think they are off. I think it's actually the Italian Open.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got that wrong.
Okay.
Wow, National Open.
National Open.
Jeez, what happened to you today, TC? We had dropped the many feuds of Seve Ballesteros this past week, late in the week. And if you happen to have mentioned that one, me and KV did a deep dive on that one. And then we're going to hone in on DJ this week. We're going to do another Golf Spotlight episode coming up this week with the Pie Man, recording that tomorrow. So
I can't wait to hear what big brain ideas he's working on in his game.
I believe he got hands laid on him in his short game, and I'm excited to hear about that. So
nice.
And then we're going to have a trap draw be out midweek. We had some good chop sessions the last couple of weeks. So you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. So TC, for about an hour, I forgot about how that event ended today. But
I did too.
As I'm going to go shut down, I just heard that Halliburton also blew out his Achilles.
Oh, are you serious?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dick Cheney
God,
or
that's
Tyrese?
awful. Unfortunately, I think they probably mean Tyrese.
That is not good. So,
That
all right. Thank you,
sucks.
everyone,
I'm
for
sorry,
tuning
Pacers.
in. Massive week with the Travelers and the KPMG Women's PGA. Cody, appreciate you hustling your butt out there and sweating it up like I know you were. And, we'll bounce back from this, TC. It's not the end for our guy.
Beginning.
I feel bad for pressuring you into making a one and done pick for Port Rush. I think I might need to extend that one for you because I feel so bummed on this. I didn't know how bad I wanted this as well until today. But here we are. It's a new world.
People can change their minds too. So
Sorry,
All
this is my hold on. This is my favorite type of time in summer. We're not live for a long time, brother.
And we're not back till Open
Open.
Championship.
Wow.
That is gonna be nice. It's gonna be a nice little
Mid-
break. Live is hard.
mid-July.
Live is a lot hard. People don't know this,
Yeah.
especially on Cody's end. A lot goes into making these shows live. So we would appreciate if you subscribe to our YouTube if you're not already.
There we go.
There's 2,600 of you here right now. I doubt all of you subscribe. We greatly appreciate you watching and following on live. We'll have plenty of content still to come, but it's a little downtick in significant events, which comes at a much needed time for all of us. So let's have a great week. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you back here soon. Cheers.
Cheers.